Circumference and area. After watching this video, I will be able to apply the formula of circumference and area to find the missing information. So first, let's have a recap of what area and perimeter is in all of our formulas. In case you have forgotten, circumference, the formula could be used is pi times diameter or 2 times pi times radius. The formula for area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. Remember, pi is just an irrational number, and it really means all of this, but we usually say 3.14. You can actually use just this button in your calculator. If you do not have access to a calculator, then you would probably use 3.14. So if I have the circumference given to me and I want to find the radius, I want to use a formula that is including circumference and radius. So C is equal to 2 pi r. I'm going to plug in the information I know. I know what the circumference is. It is 13.2. So 13.2. 2 is just a number. Pi is just a number. Radius is my unknown. That's what I'm trying to isolate to get by itself. Because we are multiplying, the inverse would be to divide. So I'm going to take my side and I'm going to divide by everything I do not want. I do not want the 2 pi there, so I'm going to divide by the 2 pi. And what you do on one side, you do on the other. 2 pi over 2 pi, that just gives me 1, but 1 times r is just r. So my radius is going to equal 13.2 divided by 2 pi. At this point, I would go to my calculator and I would plug in those numbers. So 13.2 divided by, and then in parentheses, I'm going to put 2 times pi just to make sure the order of operations go correctly. So my radius is going to equal 2.1. So now you try. Given the circumference, find the diameter. So I'm going to use a formula that uses circumference and diameter. So that is C equals diameter times pi. I'm going to fill in the information I know. So 69.1 is my circumference. And then I'm going to solve for the letter D because that represents diameter. So that means that pi needs to go away because we're multiplying. The inverse would be to divide. And what you do on one side, you do on the other. So I am left with 69.1 over pi. And at that point, I would go to my calculator. So divided by pi. So I would get 21.9. And if I were to round to the nearest, I would get A. So I want to find the diameter. This time I am given the area. So I am going to use my area formula, which is A times pi r squared. And I'm going to fill in the information I know. So I know the area is 153.9, and that has to equal pi r squared. So the first step is to get r squared by itself. So I am going to divide by pi. And that goes away. So I am just left with a variable. However, it has an exponent. In a previous unit, we talked about how to get rid of something that's squared. Well, the inverse of the second power is taking the square root. I'm going to take the square root, and what you do on one side, you do on the other. So I am left with r, and now I'm going to take the square root of 153.9, and that's going to be over pi. And my calculator is going to say approximately 6 0.99. If I were to round to the nearest tenth, I would get 7. So let's say R is 7. But I did not answer the question because it wanted to know the diameter. Well, I know that the diameter of something is just the radius times 2. So 2 times 7 would give me 14, which is the diameter. Now you try. Find the radius of the circle. So I am going to write my formula. Area is equal to pi r squared. And I am going to plug in what I know. I know that the area is 50.3. So now I'm going to solve for my variable r. I'm going to move pi by dividing because the inverse of multiplication is division. So pi is gone and radius is there. And then I need to get rid of this power of a 2, and the inverse would be to take the square root. What you do on one side, you do on the other. So r is by itself, and then I would need to go to a calculator. I would say the square root of 50.3 divided by the pi button is going to give me approximately 4.00, which is approximately just 4. Did I want to find the radius? Yes. So B is my answer.